All righty, it's 1 o'clock. How's it going, Supriya?
Good. How are you?
Doing good, thanks. Excited to get this started. I see there's people joining. We're just going to give everybody a few minutes before we kick it off. As people are joining in, feel free to use the live chat, introduce yourself, drop your LinkedIn, your business, mingle, and then any questions or comments as we go. That's why it's there. Okay. All right. I'll just wait another minute or two and then I will get started. All right. Let's see. You want to go ahead and get started, Supriya?
Sounds good.
Okay, cool. So let's see here. Got a few people joining. Great. Yeah, we're going to go ahead and get started. Thanks, everybody who's already joined. And hopefully we'll get some more people joining. This is our first time doing a live stream on Substack. I think I already saw somebody comment who knew that Substack did this. We did not. So we're excited to give it a try and see how it goes. We're going to obviously be recording this session and we'll send it out to anybody who RSVP'd. But if you haven't RSVP'd and you have found yourself here from the algorithm, we'll, thank the algorithm gods that you're here. Drop your info and we're happy to share the recording with you as well after this, if that's helpful. I'm Kat. I am the GM at Eve. I'm joined with Supriya, who is our founder and CEO at Eve. We're going to be talking about a lot of things today, but I'll pause and say, Supriya, do you want to just maybe spend a minute introducing everybody to what we do over here and maybe a little of your background as our founder and chief?
Thank you, Kat. Hi, everyone. Really excited to do our first webinar here as part of Human Layers and Eve as a company. Eve stands for Executive Voice Engine, and we are building AI that actually sounds like you and not a robot. And really excited to share what we've learned building this product and working with real customers across all sorts of different types of companies and industries, and what actually works well to help you stand out in the crowd. And we've been talking about doing this webinar for a while, and the events of the last week or so in particular with AI Slop and all these detectors, this just made it such a interesting moment in time and opportunity for us to touch on a topic that we've thought a lot about in terms of how to really stand out in the crowd when you have a POV. And the rise of AI slop which we'll get into, just poses a tremendous opportunity for people who are building real businesses and have real things to say to really stand out. So really excited to get into it. And thank you all for joining us.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much. With that, I mean, let's just dig in. I feel like we have a lot to cover, and like I said, if you're here right at the beginning, please do use the live chat with any questions or comments, and we're going to be monitoring that as we go through, but we will try to save 5 or 10 minutes at the end for any questions. But it is a lot, so I'm going to dig right in. As Supriya said, we are really wanting to focus on how to help people sound like themselves, whether that's using AI or not. It's a weird time to be alive, and it's a lot of weird tech happening, and a lot of robotic sounding, generic sounding posts. So what can we do in this AI era, AI slop era, AI detector era, to really hone our own voices and use this moment to our advantage? And I say all of that to remind everyone here, remind ourselves maybe in lower times, that it is not as simple as just posting content. It's not as simple as just getting started, post something. There's really a lot behind generating meaningful, impactful content, and you need a system behind it. It's easy to look at other people's LinkedIn's and them churning out content and forget they probably have a system, they probably have a team behind them generating a ton of content. And they probably, if they don't either of those, probably have an agency. If you aren't one of those and you are churning out content on your own, self-determination, then huge props to you, and let's talk so that we can pick your brain, because you're certainly in the minority of the 0.0001%. It's really, really difficult to get out there with consistency and with authenticity. It's not as simple as using AI, as we know, to churn out content. And honestly, it's not always as easy as hiring an agency either, if you can afford it. Capturing a voice is what we're going to be talking about today, and what that takes, even as yourself, to be able to capture it properly and to say what you want to say in a way that resonates with your audience. So I will pause there. Anything you want to add to that, Supriya?
I mean, simply put, putting out great content, it takes a system. That system could be human, AI, or some combination thereof. But it takes a system that is backed with strategic intention. So what outcomes are you trying to drive? Who are you trying to resonate with? Who are you? and what do you want to say? And we're going to get into that today. But those are some of the ingredients for success. And to dovetail into the second problem here, slop. So this is kind of like the slippery slope, or like the temptation island of AI. Well, I could just have AI automate all my thoughts and come up with random nonsense, and you could even set up an automation thing where it just it automatically posts things all over the internet. Sounds like you because it's using your word choice or something like this. But the reason why there's a lot of AI slop out there is actually because AI makes it really, really easy to create a system, but it doesn't necessarily make it really easy to create a really good system. And getting help from AI is fine, but the reality is like slop is actually can be generated by AI, humans, or some combination thereof. And I'll pause there for comedic effect, because I know all of you have seen this on your feeds. Some of it could be AI, some of it could be human, some of it could be, Danielle, as you were in the chat mentioning, humans who just happen to sound like AI because they're actually good writers. Who knows, right? But the point is that slop is what you don't want, because slop is an indication of a lack of human perspective. And what you want to put out there is something that isn't slop. And if you used AI to correct a typo or, heaven forbid, use it for research, which is what it's actually pretty good at, it doesn't mean that it is automatically slop. Those are different things. But what you do want to do, the goal is get your perspective out there in a way that resonates with your audience and furthers your business objectives. And so that's what we're going to talk about today, and how to tell the difference between slop and not slop, how to position yourself in a way that makes you seem human and not AI to the other humans whose perspectives you are trying to influence with your content.
Yeah. Amen. Yeah. I'll underline all of that just with a bit of data. Who doesn't love a good piece of data to back all of this up? Content is really important, right? Like, this is why people are running very quickly to AI for whatever system they can get their hands on, because the data shows that when it comes to a brand's profile and a brand or a company posting about something versus a human individual person, there's no comparison. Like, it is much more impactful. There's much higher engagement when it comes to a person posting something about their work, about their product, about what they're doing. It's something like 7x on engagement on a personal profile versus a company. And that's what we're seeing, as the desire and hunger for authentic points of views will get stronger, along with this sea of slop. These numbers are just going to get higher and higher. If I had to guess, like, we are going to have almost no time for impersonal brands or generic posting, and we'll want to see the real humans behind the work doing the job, talking to us about it and selling us on it in a real authentic way. So, all of this is not going away. So let's figure out how to navigate within it, and recognize that our content engine really could be our sales engine. This could be your whole pipeline if you do it right. Anything you want to add to that, Supriya, before
I don't know if we have a stat in this presentation. I don't think we do, but there was a stat that I read recently from, I want to say it was Klaviyo did a poll recently. And the other thing is that the cost of saying something is now 0. The cost of saying something great, these numbers really exemplify that, right? And these numbers are from last year. This is from a Edelman report from 2025. So I can only imagine these numbers actually going up, not down. The counterpoint is this Klaviyo report, which actually shows that customers are now getting very, very sensitive to AI slop, which honestly is just slop that is increasing because AI made it easier to make slop. But that category of stuff is actually creating downward pressure. So now it's not neutral, but it is actually creates risk if you're creating content that doesn't resonate and sound human, authentic, useful, and it actually gets sort of perceived by audiences as slop. And so producing good content is important. Producing subpar content because you're trying to cut corners is not actually a neutral activity. It's actually potentially a negative activity in terms of brand trust. So just something to keep in mind as sort of this ecosystem is evolving.
Definitely. Yeah. So it's like, if we're running NPS for our, customer experience, maybe we should start running that on our content, because it certainly can create some detractors now, which,
Yes.
Maybe we hadn't thought about previously.
Yes,
So,
exactly.
Definitely. Okay. So what we're going to do next is run some examples by you. We're going to do a couple of different things. This is just a solid example where we took a very generic prompt, ran it through a generic AI. I think this one I used ChatGPT for, and then also ran it through our system and added some human touches and human edits to it to really sound like, in this case, our client Tina. And you'll see the prompt itself is, we got dwell time down from 47 minutes to 12 at the Memphis Yard this year. Write a LinkedIn post about it. So first, I'll just say this out loud. This prompt isn't super great. Like we need to, be able to tell whether it's the AI or an agency. Like we need to give it more of a story arc to like really tell it where to go. But I'm not going to digress into all of that. What I do want to show you the difference of is what a generic AI will do with this versus, how to actually sound like a human and what we've done with our Eve system. And I don't even have to read the generic AI before I can tell you like this is generic because of the format alone. It's opening up with a hook, 47 minutes to 12 minutes. And then it's giving you a list of something, and then it's closing with some very like staccato takeaways for dramatic effect. So 35 minutes saved every time. That's real operational efficiency. This is like an AI voice that maybe pre-AI, certainly people spoke this way and wrote this way. But for whatever reason, LinkedIn specifically, or AI writing for a LinkedIn post, has taken it and run with it. Hook, sentence or two, list to be able to scan, a dramatic emphasis on something in a staccato voice, and then a close. It'll either be a close like this, like that's what is really important about this, or it will ask you a question like, what are my fellow yard workers thinking about this, or something like this. It's very, very typical. I'm sure you've all seen it. And the reason I call that out before reading the Eve version is when you're scrolling through a platform, if everything is formatted the same way, that alone is a version of slop that we all get tired of. And then let's say you are trying to play to the algorithm for reach and you're writing something in your own words, but following this format, you can also count on AI detectors to consider that AI, whether it's yours or not. So just calling that out. And overall, the message itself could be anybody. Like it's taking the 47 minutes and the 12 minutes from the prompt, and it's not really elaborating on any of it. It's saying what happened. They went from 47 minutes to 12 minutes. And then in the list, it's listing things that are super generically true for many different companies because it doesn't have any other context on you. So it's doing what it can. And then giving you the takeaway, like, this is really good. This is operational efficiency, right? It's not really telling a story about anyone specific. It's doing what it can. Good job, AI. But it's not personal and it doesn't read authentic. Over on the Eve. Oh, go ahead, Supriya.
I was going to say, I think the resolution, unfortunately, is degraded once it gets to Substack live stream. And apologies, guys, our first time doing this, so appreciate you dealing with our partnering our dust here. But we could just quickly like read it top to bottom. That might be helpful for the audience.
Sure. Yeah. Let me just read it for you. Sorry, guys. I didn't realize that the quality was so low over there. Let me see if I can. I don't think I can make it any bigger for y'all. So I'll just read it. So the generic version is 47 minutes to 12 minutes. That's how much we reduced dwell time at our Memphis yard this year. And while 35 minutes might not sound like a huge number on its own, multiply that across every truck, every day, and every load, and the impact adds up fast. Less time sitting means more product drivers, better asset utilization, faster throughput, lower operating costs, and a better experience for everyone moving freight through the yard. So I'll just pause there for a second and say, this is what I mean. All of those things are true, right, about saving time, but they could be true for anybody. This is not like a specific, meaningful story about what's happening to them because this could be true anywhere. Real win isn't just getting from 47 to 12. It's proving that operational improvements don't always require a massive overhaul. Sometimes the biggest gains come from identifying where time is being lost, understanding why, and relentlessly working to remove the friction. 35 minutes saved every time. That's real operational efficiency. So just to my quick eye, assuming that I did read this, if I was scrolling on LinkedIn and gave it a few minutes to read, what I would want to know is actually, sometimes the biggest gains come from identifying where time is being lost. Like, well, where is time being lost? That's the story that you could be telling, but AI doesn't know what that story is. So it's just filling the gaps, right? I'm going to pause for a second. You guys, I am very pregnant, so I get winded pretty quickly. Take a little sip. So on ours, just at glance, a glance at the formatting, this is the same thing where the content does matter. It always matters, but at a glance, it feels more human. It's written in paragraphs, which is more stream of thought, more human looking. It doesn't follow a very typical SEO driven LinkedIn format for a grazer is what I call them, like somebody that can scroll through and read a link really quickly or read a list really quickly. So I'll read this for y'all. Our unit economics is revenue per truck per day, with dwell time being the part of the day nobody pays for. Our average dwell time was 47 minutes when we started measuring. It's 12 now, a 74% improvement. So right there, it's talking about unit economics per truck. It's giving a bit more context to, the story that they're telling. Nobody throws a party for a 35-minute time savings, but you multiply it by 40 trucks in 250 days, that's 5,800 hours. Plus, our drivers got home earlier, and the operators on the dock crew knew where every minute went. Suddenly, 35 minutes doesn't seem so small. That is a human story in one sentence, two sentences, right? Like they're telling me the real human impact, and I automatically care about that a little more. Not being in this business at all, right? But like as a human, I can appreciate that. That's impressive. And they did the numbers, the math for me, rather than just telling me like, oh, if you did the math, it multiplies. Like, oh no, she did the math. And you can see this is impressive. Congratulations and big gratitude to our Memphis yard crew for their persistence and their dedication. So I'll pause there and just say, high level, it looks more human. It sounds more human because you're talking about humans and you're telling a real story in half the time as well. So maybe you don't have any, lists in there to be able to read at a glance, but overall it's a much shorter piece that I could read in a glance and just, half the time. Anything you want to say?
Yeah, I can add to that too. Is just like people remember stories, not numbers. Numbers substantiate the story, but the stories are what stick with people. This is not specific to LinkedIn. This is like any business type setting or even human setting.
Yeah.
And so people might remember the numbers because of the story, but not the other way around. And so that's why storytelling is really really effective. Also, those stories make it specific to you, and these are some of the ways that going well beyond structure, that you're able to actually come off as authentic because you are authentic, right? You're actually talking about what happened at your company in a way that someone can relate. Also, just having some sort of like emotional pull of like, we were finally able to do this. Congratulations to that. Those emotions as you relay them, like those emotions get coded in people's brains, and like that's what makes you memorable. Yeah. And so I just share some of those notes. So that these are actually best practices of great business communicators, not specific necessarily to LinkedIn, but this is how it shows up in the real world, and why it's so important to think about that as you go out and tell your own stories, and not necessarily follow the generic templates that you see out there, in terms of sometimes even the structure, which could then drive you down this slippery slope of becoming generic, even if you're using your own fingers to type.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Daniel, thank you for your comment about like, preferring the structure of one and the content of other. Like, I think that's totally fair. That's the push and pull we're in now. And the reason that, like, AI actually takes this structure, and this is across LLMs with the generic AI version, is because it is best practices. Like, it's the same on websites. Like, you want a reader to be able to scroll through quickly and read it at a glance. And then if you aren't a skimmer and you're more of a digger, and you want to dig in, then you have the option to, but you don't have to, right? And even now, just as an aside to that, the AI bots themselves, if we're talking about AI search, they like this format too. So there are some real benefits to it. At the end of the day, it's like you want to sound like yourself, and you want people to, that your piece resonates with them. And so finding that balance is going to be really, really important. Okay.
Agreed.
Yeah. Okay. So this is actually, on the face of it, looks really, really simple. These are the 3 pieces that every person needs for every single piece that they're writing, for a foundation that they're building, for their overall content and brand strategy. And interestingly, these are the same 3 things that you would end up giving an agency, a ghostwriter, or if you were writing a prompt, the things that you would need to give an AI in order for them to even, take a stab at sounding like you. Good luck on that last one. Supriya could probably talk for hours about the difficulty of how unsteerable AI now is when it comes to telling them your style and perspective, but that could be a session of its own. Basically, you are going to, number 1, need to have context. So this is going to be your industry, your business, anything in your world that it gives whatever piece you're writing the context that it needs to make sense and to have any sort of meaning. You need to have defined a style, and this is how you sound both when you're speaking, but also when you're writing. There's going to be a combo of both to really strong content strategy. And things like your humor, your paraphrasing, your cadence. We were just talking about the structure of the posts. What are these things that are unique to you, that you prefer, and that you also find really resonate with your audience, which plays into the context, right? Like, what is your world and your business, and what is the style within that for you, and how you're operating within it. And then the third piece is your perspective. And this is the most important piece. It's what you believe, why you believe it, what your point of view is, what you like to talk about, what your audience is interested about hearing from you. And all of these 3 things together at the, smallest and the highest levels are going to be the common thread of every single post. Asking yourself, like, does it have all of these 3 things reflected properly? And this is also where we're seeing that feeling of, I hate to use the word failure because I really don't think that agencies are failing, but it's very, very difficult to land every single post for a client when you have a 30-minute meeting essentially and hand them your whole world. Here's my context, here's my style, here's my perspective, like, now go write like me. It's nearly impossible. And so really, like, translating that, whether that's to an agency, a ghostwriter, to AI, or to yourself, like doing it yourself, is really, really difficult. And it's a forever practice that you'll be asking yourself every time you write something. I'm going to pause there because we're about to get really into it. Do you want to add anything to that, Supriya, before I move on?
I just wanted to address the point on structure because I just wanted to be clear. Like, Tina's writing style, so if you look at number 2, is more like what Eve produced as the example, or the one that we were saying that like felt more human. And so I think one of the things is like, people don't necessarily write listicles. It became very, very, very common because that was the best, quote, best practice that the AIs sort of consumed, and that's what's out there. And I actually like paragraph style stuff. But that's me. I actually don't mind reading other people's listicle things. I think the point is that, like, some people talk like that, some people communicate like that, some people have other styles, and so structure is just one of many levers you have, and it's a lever that you can use to optimize to whatever objective you have. Like, if you want your writing style to evolve to be more like, having a bunch of individual lines and bullet points, and that works for your audience, that's totally fine. It's more about what is authentic to you, and that's the thing that we want you all to take away. So just want to make sure that doesn't get conflated as we continue to go through the presentation. It's about how do you pinpoint, authentic to you and authentic to, how people generally communicate, versus it being about trying to necessarily placate an algorithm, because at the end of the day, the algorithms are going to reward and distribute content that resonates with your audience, and that is ultimately the goal here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I guess I should have just said that for this slide.
That's okay. Yeah, it's exactly right.
So, it's just like it's your it really is about providing rich input, with a perspective, um, with the way that you think about the world, and also thinking about the value exchange, because the content that you put out there is in service of your audience, not necessarily in service of you personally, right? It's not for your ego, it's for the enrichment of your audience. And being mindful of those inputs is really important, versus if you have shallow inputs, like, hey, write a post about this news article or something like this. Um, it's shallow in, generic out, or you can provide a lot of depth and texture, and that's what's going to result. If you have a lot of great raw material, that's what's going to really result in great work and great things that will ultimately resonate with your audience.
Yeah, definitely. I think too, just kind of going back here to this piece, it's easy, in my experience, to like remember your context. If we're using this as a rubric for one LinkedIn post, let's say, just like at the lowest level, easy to say like, yep, my context is in here. I'm clearly writing this for the right people. I'm speaking to the right people. My style is there. I'm happy with it. It sounds like me. I've removed, if I'm using AI, I've removed the AI tells. I've added myself back in, all of that. The third piece is the hardest part, like making sure that it has perspective, like making sure that this isn't some generic, no real story, no through line. This is where AI, where Slop in general, AI or not, really shines through in a negative way, because if you read it all and you get to the end and the reader says, okay, so what? Like there was no point to this. There was no perspective. And so this is the strongest piece of these three to ask yourself at the end of everything that you put out there every single day. Like, okay, is someone going to read this and say, so what? Like, no, the what should be really clear. Not necessarily a call to action, but what was the point of posting this? What am I trying to say? And is my point of view clear here on whatever it is? And so that's the only thing I add to that. Cool. So more questions to ask yourself on the heels of that. So 3 different questions. Again, like anytime we write anything, these are the things that I'm asking. If it's for my personal LinkedIn, if it's for our brand. So Priya and I, go back and forth a ton on every single piece of content, which can sound crazy, but it's really important to say like, okay, who is the audience? Again, is this aligning with who our audience is? Or, especially when you're talking about AI or the news, AI news, it's really easy to miss it because you want to speak about what's happening. Well, okay, this is really interesting, but will my audience care? Like, does this belong on my personal LinkedIn? Does this belong on our company LinkedIn? Like, who are these audiences and will it resonate? What do you want to be known for? And this could be if you're trying to build your personal brand, your executive brand, your company's brand. Like, what is it that you are trying to say? Why are you trying to say it? And, at the highest level, like, what does that all, bubble up to? What are you trying to be known for? And 3, if somebody has a question or needs help, what is that thing they need help for that you would want to be the go-to person that gets that phone call? Like, what exactly is it that you're trying to work towards to be the go-to person? So if you take these three and you combine them together and you ask yourselves that before you even start, and then let that be your guiding light and your North Star for every single piece of content, make sure it has that perspective that captures these three things. That is going to like basically cover you 100% of the time. And then it also is a really, really good starting point. Like if you are trying to hire an agency or a ghostwriter or a new hire, you're bringing them onto the team, have these answers ready and let them ask you questions like to really get this clear in their mind. And it will also be a guide for them to like really, really make sure that you're honing in on those specific voices, whether for you, other executives, for your brand, all of it. Okay, I'm super excited about this part. I will definitely pause and read them all. So anybody that RSVP'd previous to this event, we gave you the opportunity to submit a LinkedIn post that you wanted to be scored for AI. We did do 2 of them. I'm going to read through this pretty quickly and then give you all a minute to kind of marinate in it and wage your guesses on what % of AI it is. And then I'll tell you what score it came back at. We ran these right before the call today. And then we'll do a quick rewrite. And so I can show you the before and afters. So this LinkedIn post says, most of what gets said about the CISA right now is a year out of date. Yes, the agency lost about 1/3 of its people. That happened. But it's hiring again. It shipped an AI directive in June, and DHS has said it needs roughly 600 more staff. The thing almost nobody is planning for is a calendar collision. On September 30th, the Cybersecurity Information Sharing Act of 2015 expires. Again, it already lapsed twice in the past year. Each time, the liability and the FOIA protections behind threat intel sharing went away. Sharing didn't stop. It slowed. Counsel got pulled into calls that used to take 30 seconds. The same month, the CIRCIA final rule is expected. 72 hours to report an incident, 24 hours to report a ransom payment. Roughly 316,000 entities in scope. One deadline strips the protection for sharing voluntarily. The other makes reporting mandatory. My position: stop designing your program around what federal capacity will be. Design it around what you'd do if there were none. Then treat anything CISA gives you as upside. Here's what I don't have a clean answer to. If the law lapses a 3rd time, does your general counsel greenlight continue sharing, or does it quietly stop without anyone writing it down? So I'll just let that sit for a minute. Let us know what you think, maybe why, and then I'll show you the score. And we used Pangram just as an FYI.
Yeah, that's the popular one. I saw some chatter about it in the chat too. Yeah, if y'all have Danielle, I see you've got some thoughts there. If others want to put their thoughts, their guesses, their reactions, and then we'll do the reveal here.
Uh-huh. All right, I'm gonna hit it.
All right, let's do it.
100% AI. So here is, like I said, it's through Pangram. Just going to note the 211 words of the whole post. They do have like I think it's 100 words. Is that right, Supriya? Like it needs to be above that. So if it's less, it's not going to give you a score. It's going to throw you an error. And also note that because when we do the rewrite, it'll be a different number. So I think that's important. Okay, so what we did is we took what was in here. I've highlighted a few things that just to me were very obvious as AI tells. Right or wrong, this is the world we live in now. We can, on the one hand say, AI detectors, like we're going to mostly disregard them. But there are some things that are just widely considered AI now, and whether you've handwritten them or not, we should know them and try to avoid them if we so choose. Just knowing that people will look at it and judge it as AI. These very short staccato sentences that take up real estate and not really serve any purpose are things like, that happened. Like, yes, we know that happened. You just told us it happened. It's not a necessary emphasis. The thing almost nobody is planning for is a calendar collision. So this does two things. Saying it's a thing, so like the whatever, the calendar problem, the collision problem, the like naming it a thing is a very AI thing to do. And also introducing a paragraph. So adding in a sentence like this that doesn't really, it names it, this calendar collision, but then it goes on to explain all of it. The sentence is just taking up real estate you really don't need. It doesn't really serve a purpose. So I would have just scraped that. And then these like single or two sentence words, like again, like we don't need that. Sharing didn't stop, it slowed. That's also a very like for emphasis, these staccato sentences, but it's also it's not X, it's Y structured sentence, in this case, two sentences, that is very much becoming an AI tell. And then at the bottom, the word quietly, just like M dashes, like RIP, like I love an M dash, but it's just an AI tell now. The word quietly, the word genuinely, RIP to them. AI loves them so much. So if you use them or overuse them, people are going to think you're AI. And then the closing sentence of this paragraph saying, here's what I don't have a clean answer to. This is another naming the thing before you say it. Supriya and I discovered this ourselves in a lot of different training. The like, here's what I don't know, or here's what I do know, or this word here's at the beginning of a sentence like this is a very big prevalent AI tell now. I don't know why all these different models love it so much, but it's being overused now, and people are noticing. Are there other ones, Supriya, that you wanted to call out?
I know you don't have this one highlighted, but like one deadline strips to protection, the other makes it reporting mandatory. Like that could have probably just been like one cohesive sentence instead of two split up for emphasis, or even 72 hours to blah, 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 24 hours, roughly, blah, 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 like that staccato. So even in the middle, which we didn't highlight, but, just that kind of style of language tends to be a style that AI picks up on. And so these are basically what we wanted to do with this. And we have another example too, is like kind of show these are the style devices that AI typically uses. So if you're trying to ensure that your human audiences are not perceiving you as AI, these are the types of style devices to avoid, whether you're using AI to generate your content and then edit it, or you're just free typing yourself. These are the things that are becoming common and overused. And I think the common thread I just wanted to pull forward of what you said, Kat, a few times through this analysis is a lot of these style devices are they are devices that have been used by humans, because let's remember that LLMs trained on a bunch of human generated content, and that's how we got here. They were style devices that were used for a purpose and an intention to add value to a specific piece of prose. And good writers would use those in the right places to provide the right emphasis. When overused and not providing additional value in the content, that's where it really starts to feel offensive, and that like AI tell or that AI internal radar starts to pop up for people. And these are specifically some of the devices that AI now overuses and therefore shows up as such. There are reasons to potentially use an occasional M dash as an example that would be valid. But unfortunately, since these things are being overused, these are the things we wanted to flag to you all, as if you're using them with intention and purpose, to use it sparingly and very intentionally, make sure they add value. Otherwise, try to avoid some of these things, because they will probably come off as AI coded to other human audiences.
Definitely. Yeah. And so when we did the rewrite, I, again, went back to think like, okay, what is the perspective of this person trying to capture? And I do think that there is a perspective here. I think that they are in general trying to call out like, hey, this isn't this agency isn't a mess simply because it's understaffed. There are other things happening. There are still problems and they're working on it, is in a nutshell what I gathered from not being from this industry. Right. And so I took that and took the content that was there and tried to rewrite this in a way that really honed in on that perspective and on that so what kind of question, in a way that would still resonate with their audience. I'll pause and say, Supriya, do you want to read the rewrite? Or do you want me to read it?
Either way, you could read it too. It's fine.
No, you go ahead. You go ahead.
Okay, sounds good. So public conversation about, sorry, it's very small on my screen actually.
Oh, sorry.
All good. Actually, if you don't mind, Kat, if you are able to, if you could
I can read it. Yeah.
This is
My
so
eagle
small.
eyes.
I'm like getting into the screen at this point.
Totally. Yeah. Public conversation about CISA is still stuck on a narrative about gutted headcount and an agency in retreat. I'd argue that's outdated and no longer true. The agency may have lost a third of its people, but it's hiring again. It shipped an AI directive in June, and DHS says it still needs about 600 more staff. So even in that first sentence, I tried to make it super clear up front. Like, he's making an argument about something and has a perspective about what is happening, right? The Cybersecurity Information Sharing Act of 2015. And so I, outlined what this is. I tried to here and in other places tried to find ways to describe like the context of these agencies, just in case there's people that aren't in this industry. It expires on September 30th after already lapsing twice in the past year. Each time, the liability and the FOIA protections behind threat intel sharing went away. Sharing slowed while counsel got pulled into lengthy calls that used to take 30 seconds. The CIA, I probably should have spelled that one out for what I just said, final rule is expected in the same month, impacting roughly 316,000 entities and requiring 72 hours to report an incident and 24 hours to report a ransom payment. So while one deadline strips the protection for voluntarily sharing, the other is making reporting mandatory. My position: stop designing your program around what federal capacity will be. How would you design it if there was no federal capacity? Design it this way and then treat anything CISA gives you as a bonus. If the law lapses a third time, does your general counsel greenlight continue sharing, or I'm sorry, this is so blurry, I can't read this either. Or does it stop without anyone writing it down? That I do not have an answer to. So, the opening paragraph and the last paragraph, to me, I think were most impactful with the changes. Like, the message is still there, but it's clearer and it's more personal. And the here's what I don't have a clean answer to AI tell, I just changed that to where it's the same message to say, so what do we do if this happens again? That I don't have an answer to. Like, that sounds like how a human would just say it if you were having a conversation, if you were in a meeting being like, I'm not really sure. That it just flows in a more natural way. Let's see. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we have the rewrite. We ran it through Pangram again. And I'll just wait a second and say, like, what do you guys think the score was here?
And Kat, just to clarify for the audience, like, you personally with your 10 fingers wrote
this.
Yeah, there was no AI involved in the rewrite.
Right. And to be fair, like, I did obviously take the original and used that because I don't know anything about this industry or what's going on. But I did not rerun it in through AI, nothing, no reprompting. I hand wrote this.
And the original, do you know, Kat, if the original was AI generated and then human edited by the original?
I'm not sure.
Okay, that was a question in the audience.
Yeah, not 100% sure. We asked them just to submit one that was personal that they weren't sure about. Like, is this strong? Is it not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to some of the comments in the chat here, just like for instance, that I do not have the answer to was something Daniel suggested was maybe not as necessary. I think these are notes of style. So there's this is a good example of there's no right answer to some of these things.
Yeah.
For some people, their style is to be a little bit more vulnerable and opening up the room for people to provide a perspective as well, and be honest about like what they know and don't know. And that actually works really well for some people in terms of style. It may not be your style, so that's okay. For this particular one was just a way to humanize this as a hypothesis that maybe that would resonate for this person and their style.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you said that. Thank you, Daniel. I will add another good example, our call to action. Like a lot of AI generated content will add in a very specific type of a call to action, like they'll ask a question or they'll close a very specific way. And you may hear me criticize that. It's not the call to action itself. That really does resonate with some audiences. I don't ever write that way. That's not how my audience responds. If I'm like always asking them questions, I'm more like commenting on things or like giving my perspective on things. So it's not the call to action or the function itself. It's how it sounds. And so I think that's part of the style and the context play a big role in that. And it's very personal. Yeah, because same, there's tons of things where I'm like, I would never, that's not necessary. Okay, so this one was 100% AI. Almost the same. So, I called out the length on the last one. It was 211 words. We removed a bunch. We added stuff back in. It's about the same length at 214 words. And I, hands on keyboard wrote this and it still said it was 100% AI. So great. We do have another example, but I don't know if you agree, Supriya. I just don't know if we have time to go through it.
I think it was effectively the same. The same line here. So
I'll speed through it.
Yeah,
it was 100%. We rewrote it. Had some AI tells.
Are there any interesting AI tells to call out in this that were different from the other one?
Let me see. This one was quite. I'm going to remove us from the screen for a minute. That might help. Nope, it didn't help. It was quite long, and it was a lot of staccatoed. Here's the thing. Here's what I wouldn't do. Here's what I would do. So sorry the quality is so poor. I'm not sure how I'll have to file a ticket and ask Substack support what to do about that. But yeah, we rewrote it. You could see here, still I used a list this time because that was very much their style, with some paragraphs, same message, and it was 100% AI again. So, yay. All of that to say, we are in very good company when it comes to maybe not erroneously, but frequently being called AI. I'll leave this one to you, Supriya. I know you have a lot of things to say about this.
Well, I mean, I think that I think it's just important to understand where LLMs came from and what their training data is. It's basically the entire corpus of human writing, good, bad, and otherwise, across the entirety of internet and everything that's been digitized. And so we shouldn't be super surprised that Mary Shelley, Declaration of Independence, Abraham Lincoln, William Shakespeare, high likelihood of AI because they're in the training set. And so, in fact, if you write well, I hear this a lot from good and professional writers that they're extremely frustrated because their human writing is being detected as AI, especially from these more sophisticated tools like Pangram. And just to note why we're using Pangram, it's one that's very currently popular. It's also integrated into the Substack platform, and it's starting to be used quite a bit in a lot of places. But we wanted to share our own personal experience using that tool as well, in terms of what it could be useful for and what it may or may not actually be that useful for. from our experience using it. I think it's far better to understand what humans are going to perceive as AI tells, and just getting smart about that, and trying to adapt your style to potentially use those style devices sparingly and in places where it really provides emphasis, but not necessarily bending over backwards to appease the pangram lords, because that may or may not be that effective. Ironically, this is just my personal opinion. I feel like as these AI detector tools are getting better, it also just means so many more false positives, and spending the time trying to beat pangram may or may not be that fruitful, but spending the time to create content that's going to be authentic and resonate with your audience and getting out there with that message in ways that resonate, that's really the prize we're all going after. And these are just some stats as well from the ecosystem. A study, I think this was also either earlier this year or last year as well. Personal content gets 7x the impressions and 3x the engagement in comparison to brand. And that's partially because that content resonates, it's personal, it's authentic, and that's what people want to see. And a reminder from earlier, it has a big emphasis and impact on buyers, not just the buyers who sign the check, but the people who are influencing those buyers to make the decision to purchase. And so that's why, as a business owner and from a business perspective, getting your perspective out there is really important, ensuring that it resonates, that it's not perceived as AI by your human audience, and it provides value to your human audience. Those are the goals that we should be going after, and this is the prize for that.
Yeah, perfect. I definitely, I'll just add add our name to the list of people you're in good company with. We put out a Substack yesterday, all about Claude's watermarking, ironically. And I cannot tell you, I was, again, just fingers on keyboard, writing in Substack freehand, adding in edits and new paragraphs. And every time I would go to refresh it to see what the AI score was, because if you're not familiar, it's built in. Pangram is built in now with Substack. The score was going down for the human and up for AI. So I would add in things and it would be like, oh, now this is only, 40% human instead of 50, just offensively wrong. So I see in the chat, you guys are talking about that, how they always think you're AI. Like, you're in good company because same, right? So at the end of the day, like, the, pangram gods will frown upon us, but our readers will smile upon us. And ultimately those are the real judges, right? So I fully agree with everything you said, Supriya. I'll add to that, the biggest takeaway here as we're wrapping up in the last few minutes is, the three things we talked about: your context, your style, and your perspective. Like, hold those close to your heart in everything that you do. But then, there's obviously a volume need when it comes to content, and while still holding those things close to stay authentic and to sound like you. What we do internally and what we recommend to all of our clients is think about just one thing that you believe about your industry that most people get wrong. This is just a really easy, simple prompt. And then voice note it. Get on your phone. Google has a built-in microphone. Obviously, you can do a voice note and just talk about it for 5 minutes. Like, what is something here that's happening that you just wish was either in conversation or you wish it wasn't in conversation? Things in your industry that, in general, you wish were different. And then use that as your ongoing content. Like, the derivative content you can pull from all of that is really strong. And I don't know what it is, if I'm honest. Usually when I'm driving or I'm cleaning, I am making these voice notes and it makes my writing so much easier. That's just a personal thing. Like, when I'm not sitting and trying to actually write it and I'm just stream of consciousness speaking about my feelings about the industry and about what's happening, it gives me a huge library of content. I'm able to then write LinkedIn posts literally from that. I'm able to, turn it into Instagram snips and reels and things. So that's some personal advice for me to you. But just, get out of your own head and just talk about it, and then use that to build content, and keeping those other, 3 things in mind. For whatever reason, they'll come more naturally when you're speaking it naturally, and go from there. Do you want to add anything to that, Supriya, before I close?
No, I think that's spot on. It's just like keeping your eye on the prize of like providing value to your audiences. It really comes from like the value you can provide us through these perspectives that you personally have on your industry because of your unique lived experience. And like that's something to not forget as you're trying to build your own brand, and attract, the customers that you want, and your audience. And so just this is like such a fantastic thing, and people think that this stuff is really easy to do, but it's in terms of just like, oh, you can just sit down and just start typing. But like most people, everyone has their own rhythms and their own creative processes. So we're like really encourage you to think about what are some easy ways when you're having those shower thoughts, or or those thoughts as you're like about your day. The voice note thing has been a tremendous tool for many of our clients. Like almost all of them use voice notes to capture thoughts. And it's a great way to capture those moments that you think that you can use to achieve these objectives.
Yeah.
So that's
Awesome.
helpful.
Yeah. And then last but not least, a couple of things, guys. Number one, this is our first webinar, our first Substack Live. We very much plan to do more of them, but also to do roundtables that are more, curated small groups. So if that's something you're interested in, like, please subscribe, connect with us on LinkedIn. We will add you to the list for both of those. They're all always free, obviously. And then we are also going to be doing a couple of different accelerators that are 12 weeks long, small cohorts, all about building strategy, building brand, digging into your voice, how to, use AI plus humans to really like scale this up. And if that's something you're interested in, or if you know anybody, we're going to be starting the first cohorts in September. The QR code will take you there. So, come our way, and we'd love to add you to the community. And other than that, we'll see you next time.
Yeah. Thanks,
Cool.
everyone, so much
Thanks, guys.
for attending. Great conversation as well. So hope to see you all at the next one, and maybe a roundtable where we can all chat together.
Yeah, that would be great. All right. Talk to you later.
Here.
Bye. Okay, guys, we are going to close this out.